President of Musha Research. Ryoji Musha is live from Tokyo. Welcome to First Look. And were you surprised that sentiment among Japanese manufacturers failed to improve the quarter?
Yes, this is an expected weakness we have seen last report. Maybe two factors lie behind. One is currency. Still, Japanese corporate executives do not predict that the yen to depreciate much further. 78 yen per dollar is assumption of their forecast. That was quite a negative factor. And the second thing is that still people are not strongly confident about the recovery of U.S. economy and the global economy. However, looking at the U.S. economy, situation is improving. Therefore, assumption of current disappointing report is actually something to be revised afterwards.
And Ryoji, you mentioned there the concern about the yen being highlighted by manufacturers, a concern that it might well now strengthen against the dollar. Is this a key worry, and does it actually spell really woes for the key exporters of Japan, the likes of Sony, Sharp, Panasonic, because they're all predicting annual losses?
Yes, and the currency is the most important factor that depresses Japanese manufacturers. However, this Tankan also indicates that the inflation situation is quite different from purchasing inflation and selling inflation. Purchasing cost is increasing. However, selling price stay so depressed level, even this report, which means that this report press seriously to Bank of Japan to move ahead to ease more, so that depresses Japanese currency. This number, therefore, I think actually quite positive for continuous easing of Japanese monetary policy, and that in turn to be quite positive for Japanese corporate activities going forward.
Ryoji, how soon do you expect the Bank of Japan to step in to actually stimulate the economy further?
Actually, Bank of Japan is doing now, and I think next their monthly meeting they may do. And you know, Bank of Japan committing 1% inflation goal, which is even less than 1% of 2% goal of the U.S. Current Japanese inflation is negative 0.4%. Bank of Japan needed to lift 1.4% from current level, so that is more. That responsibility Bank of Japan now promised to people may be realized going forward.
Ryoji, very quickly, you mentioned the U.S. economy, and actually perhaps manufacturers aren't as positive about the U.S. recovery as you are. Do you expect that the U.S. will drive the Japanese economy forward?
Excuse me, U.S.?
The U.S. growth. Do you believe that U.S. growth will drive the Japanese economy forward? Because you said actually that perhaps manufacturers aren't as optimistic about the U.S. and global recovery as perhaps you are.
Yes, I think yes, currently U.S. economy have been depressed, especially two components. One is housing, and which is gradually recovering, maybe. And I think more serious negative impact to Japan manufacturer is autos. Auto production, auto sales have been so depressed in the U.S. However, it is remarkably improving now, thanks to improvement U.S. job market and thanks to increase of U.S. wages. And I think this trend may support Japanese manufacturers in addition to further weakness of Japanese currency.
So perhaps some optimism to look forward to. Ryoji Musha, President of Musha Research, thank you for all your insights and views on the U.S. economy. Of course, we did get that consumer sentiment and spending in the U.S. buoying some markets today.